Hi guys. Pretty big feast day this week. This past week. I meant to do a vlog on that day and I'm a little bit behind on my Lent vlogs. So no time like the present. And on March 25th it was a very big feast day for us Catholics and for a lot of other people too. It was March 25th. So what is March 25th? Well, count forward. What's 9 months for March 25th? March 25th is the Feast of the Annunciation, and it's a feast day that has been celebrated at least since the 300s. It's a very, very old feast day. And of course, it's the remembering the day the angel Gabriel came to Mary. And as it says in my little book here, the Feast of the Annunciation commemorates the angel Gabriel's visit to the Virgin Mary, during which he announced that she would be the mother of the Son of God, and Mary freely assented to God's initiative. And boy, this changes everything. The Catholic prayer that's very commonly known for any football player, the Hail Mary, actually commemorates this because it uses the words the angel Gabriel said to her, and that Elizabeth, her cousin, when she went to see her, said to her. And in those words, remembering that section from the first chapter of the Gospel of Luke, we remember something really important, which is that God became a human being. That God the Son took on flesh, that word incarnation, to take on flesh, and that changed everything. It changed everything. God became a human being. Boy, everything comes out of that. It's just radical. It is extremely radical. God completely and totally became a human being without stopping being God. And he raised us up. And he raised us up in our bodies, our physical nature, as well as coming to save our souls. He came to save us, not just our souls. He came to save our whole being, body and soul. And he made all the physical world, as well as the spiritual world, the physical world that had fallen since Adam and Eve, he raised it up. It's like that song. I kind of like that song. It's a little sappier than I usually, it's a little sappier style than I usually like. He raised me up, so that one. I'm not going to sing more than that. It's a real big one for me, and it sets the ball rolling for everything else. God became a human being. You know, I was thinking about it a lot this week. And of course, thoughts always sound better in your head than when you're talking out loud. But we Catholics are really physical people. We have a lot of, they say, smells and bells. A lot of physical aspects of worship, as did the Jewish people, commanded by God in the books of the law. And in 1st and 2nd Kings and the temples being built, there's an awful lot of physical expressions of worship. And to me, it's because we're physical beings. We're not just souls, we're physical beings. And if people tell you physical expressions of relationships aren't important, then I would just like to ask how you would feel if your loved one on your anniversary didn't bring you flowers or chocolate or get you a card or anything like that. No, those things aren't important, like the love between you is important, but if stuff like that is never shown physically, then doesn't it make you wonder, like the very act of giving someone a gift on a special day, it's a way of showing your love, but it's also a way of increasing your own love because you spend time thinking of someone else instead of yourself. It bonds the relationship. Physical things bond relationships. And they can be misused. I mean, if there's an abusive relationship and say the guy is abusive and he comes home and he throws flowers at the woman and then, why don't you care, I got you flowers. That can make the flowers really a negative thing for the woman and really big up bad thoughts. But that doesn't mean it's bad to bring flowers. In a healthy relationship, something like that strengthens things. It can be abused. Any physical expression of a relationship can be abused, but that doesn't make it bad. It just means it's been misused. You don't cut off all physical expressions of relationships because they can be expressed badly. Now, I come from a background, haven't shared this on YouTube before, but the family I grew up in had a problem of alcoholism. And so I know how things can be misused and abused, but I do think it's really important for people in any kind of a relationship to have some form of physical expression of that relationship, because we have flesh. We're physical beings. This really all sounded much better in my head. So anyway, in worship, the word religion, I think, if I'm not mistaken, comes from a word, probably Latin, for relationship. And it's a way of expressing and receiving, like exchanging relationship with God. So when the reading at Mass this Sunday was Jesus curing the blind man. And Jesus spat on the ground and made mud out of the dust of the earth and smeared that on the eyes of the blind man to help him see. So there's a physical touch. And he didn't need to touch anyone physically to cure them. In fact, when the centurion came to him and asked him to cure his servant, and Jesus got up to go do that, the centurion said, "No, I don't need you to get up and come. I know you have authority, so you can just say, 'Be healed,' and he'll be healed." And that was a great act of faith, and Jesus healed the servant from distance, because, he's God, he can do what he wants. But a lot of times Jesus touched with his body because God had become a human being, and we human beings touch. He doesn't have to, but he does. So anyway, us Catholics tend to express physically a lot of our worship of God, and I think that's kind of a cool thing. And because of the Incarnation, there is this sort of elevation of the physical side of us. We don't believe that human beings are a soul like trapped in a body, and then when we die our souls are free and that's really who we are. We don't believe that at all. We believe we are body and soul. And when we pray in the Apostles' Creed, which is sort of a summary of the faith that goes back to the time of the Apostles, it says we believe in the resurrection of the body. We're not speaking just of Jesus' body, we're speaking of our bodies, that when Jesus comes again, he's the first one to rise from the dead. And since he's God, he could do that himself. But he will raise us, and our souls will be reunited with a glorified body, which doesn't have illness or anything like that anymore, and we'll be completely ourselves. One thing about God, he always makes us completely ourselves, and accepts us completely as ourselves, and I think that's really cool. Anyway, this is really rambling, but the Feast of the Incarnation, the Feast of the Annunciation, which is the Feast of the Incarnation, is a really big one. And every time we say that prayer, "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus," we are remembering that moment when Mary said yes to God, and God came down from heaven into her womb and became a human being, starting the same way we all do, as a single cell that's as small as a dot period on a piece of on a newspaper print. And that God himself became that little out of love for us. So it's just awesome. So I'm just going to leave that there. But that has been my major meditation this week, because we had the Feast of the Annunciation. It's been my major Lent thing. So anyway, that's my thoughts for today. And just what's in my heart, and it's probably one of my favorite things to meditate on, because it never ends. It never, just like this video, right? The more you think about that, just the more there is to it. It's just awesome what he did for us and what that does to us. So I will stop rambling now. Okay, see you next time.